Well, good morning again, and thank you for joining us for this weekly presentation from Messer Financial's offices for the benefit of you as agents to learn from our carriers directly products and sweet spots that will enable you to speak with more confidence in your efforts to bring forth new products to your clients. Just a couple of housekeeping issues before we get started. First of all, the phones are all on mute, but occasionally something will slip through. So if you do hear background noise that sounds like it might be coming from your location, it probably is. So you could go ahead and place your phones on mute if you have that capacity. Number two, we're going to ask that you hold your questions until the very end. There's a box to the right column for those questions to be typed in, and we'll address those at that opportunity when we complete the presentation. This morning, we have with us the principal of GreatPlains, Mr. Rich Hellerich, and Rich is going to bring to us a little program that I think you're going to find not only informative, but interesting and fun. Rich, good morning.
Good morning. I appreciate the opportunity here, Mark, to talk to your guys about what I have as a presentation that I've used for annuities for the last 25 years, and I've used this presentation to help find hidden gems out there whenever you're talking to clients. So looking forward to talking today. Okay, so I'm just going to start in here and just a little brief thing about myself. Rich Hellerich. I'm with GreatPlains Annuity, like Mark said, and I'm the principal at GreatPlains. I started in 2002, and our main thrust is the annuity and life business. And a lot of times over the years, a lot of agents that I've worked with have asked for what is a really simple presentation to make clients and prospects start to think, you know, how do I ear tag? And that's the very first process whenever you're finding money that may qualify and be suitable for an annuity purchase. And I think the first thing, you know, when I've been with agents, you know, I go with them, and the very first thing they do is lay a brochure on the table and start talking about a product. And they're trying to get that one sell, whether it's a $40,000, $80,000, or whatever. But you know, I tell you, one of the funnier parts of our business was that I would see an annuity app come in here on a client, and John would bring the annuity app in here, and he'd write an app for $40,000, and maybe about 4 months later, another agent named Mary would bring another application on the same client for another $40,000, and all three agents never did do any kind of a fact finder to even find out how much money the client actually possibly had. And they had three different agents writing $30,000 and $40,000 apps. And I think if we did more of a client fact finder or ear tag money and got the client thinking, you know, which money breaks down into what I call red money and green money, I think you'd have a better chance. Maybe you could have wrote a little bit bigger ticket and maybe secured that client instead of having that client look for other options. But anyway, my approach on the annuity, going back to the agent taking a brochure and talking about a $20,000 or $40,000 annuity, and my presentation here, just for all the guys looking at it today, you know, I don't think that what product accumulates best at what rate, what the commission pays, and what the highest income payout. I don't think any of that thing matters. It matters to the client ultimately, but the product and none of that stuff really matters, because what we always have to do is make sure we're matching up what the client deems their money to be trying to accomplish. So anyway, let's get right into it. Green money, what I allocate for green money is, and I call it safe money. Red money is at risk money, and it's always been used on the stoplights, and everybody understands that concept. At green, it's safe to go, and red, hey, you better look around and make sure you understand where the traffic's coming from all angles, because something bad could happen. And so that's one reason why we use red and green money in this presentation. And you'll see as we get into it, it's so simple. This presentation also is something that we put out, gave to Messer on their website, and I'm sure that you can download it and keep it on your laptop or your presentation folder whenever the opportunity comes up and the discussion turns into the money side of it. So anyway, you know, I also put down into this presentation some simple graphics and allocation models so that when the client does see it, they can go, oh yeah, my age minus whatever, yeah, I ought to have 65, 60% or whatever, you know, in green money, and I ought to only have 20 or 30% into red money. But again, my contention is at that point, you know, product options are irrelevant. Green money, and we'll get into this a little bit more, but just for the guys that, you know, the refresher here, green money is everything like from CDs, checking accounts, U.S. Treasuries, annuities, money market, and some accounts within the 401k, I suppose, meaning a bond fund or some kind of a money market fund within that 401k, but all those comprise of safe money or green money. Red money, obviously, are stocks, bonds, mutual funds, variable annuities, REITs, and most sub-accounts within the 401k market. So what color is your money? This is the very first slide of this presentation. And you know, if the conversation turns into a simple approach about annuities and it's led into the approach, this is the very first slide that they see, and the client's going to ask, well, what color is, you know, how do we determine what color our money is? And the very first slide, I've taken the safe money and at-risk money or the red money, and I've basically made it into a very easy concept and trying to take the categories that we just talked about and completing them and putting them into a simple circle format that the client understands. And the other thing I'm trying to get through to the client at this point and the prospect is to take those monies and divide it up and completely keeping those separate because every one of those green money categories, obviously, they offer certain characteristics that are associated with a safe side, and the red money at risk side obviously has the risk side component there. And then on the next slide for the presentation, we go in here and we tell everybody what the positive features are with the green money. And just to reiterate, I mean, it's safety of principal, guaranteed interest rate, and possible tax deferral. And I put down like an IRA because whenever we get to the annuity, a lot of people that still have a misnomer about what an annuity is. And I will tell you, one of the best ideas you can come up with is that, you know, to ask them if they own an IRA. And if they own an IRA, you know, an annuity is nothing more than a gigantic IRA. The only reason why you buy an IRA and put money in an IRA is only one reason, is for the tax deferral of any gains that you have in that contract and pushing that tax liability down to a future point in time. And that's the same thing what an annuity does. So if that comes up, that's a way to describe an annuity real quick where basically anybody can understand that concept if they have an IRA. The trade-off with the annuity, I mean, there always is something bad on that side, but it's the early withdrawal penalty. And if you look at all the monies and all the different categories that are in the green money, except for a money market, every one of those products that are in there, even fixed annuities, treasuries, savings accounts don't. Sometimes they do, but checking accounts don't. But CDs, they all have early withdrawal penalties if you get out of those particular investments. So anyway, now we go over here to the red money, and let's take a look at the red money. The positive features of that, obviously market upside potential, liquidity features, and possible tax advantages. And there's quite a few of the tax advantages by passing on to the next generation on individual stocks. But red money sells is because everybody's been conditioned to call and talk to their Edward D. Jones guy or their other broker that's in town. And ultimately, why you people go in there and position money in red money? A, that's what they know, and then B, you know, when it really comes down to it, it's like this. If I were talking on this webinar today, and after I got off the phone and I called back at Messer and I said, hey, Mark, there's a 5% annuity out there guaranteed for 5 years, man, everybody would go just crazy. And everybody out there would just get on advantage. Did you hear about the 5% rate? And the point to that conversation is that everybody's a little bit greedy out there. And right now, when we sell safety and guarantee, CDs are at 1%, maybe. Around here, they're, you know, a half a point all the way up to about 1.25. Checking accounts are what, 10 basis points high. Treasuries are about $1.50. Fixed annuities are probably right now on a 5-year 3%. Indexed annuities are crediting 4.5 or something like that. But then you come over here on the risk money, on the red money, and everybody touts the past mutual fund. It's averaged 8% over the last 10 years. And that's one reason why people still gravitate toward red money, because just the greed part kind of takes over, and they want a little bit over there. And should they have money on that side, the great thing about that presentation, and what I've always said, is that I don't need all the money that they've got. I just want the money that the bank has, and I just want the money that they don't want to lose. And so anyway, when you go to the next presentation or the next slide of this, it's really telling, because then it shows the client, hey, I'm not trying to get you to take all your $300,000 and put it into my annuity, but you're going in there and saying, hey, I just want the money that's safe. And if we get these clients to ear tag that safe money, then two things happen. We can go on to the next part of the client fact finder and find out how long we want to tie the money up for, what kind of rate are they expecting, who's going to get the money. And once we get to that side of it and we get the client to understand what those rates are on guaranteed money right now, then we have something to play with here, instead of bringing a brochure out there and trying to show them the hottest annuity that's out there without, and showing benefits of an annuity without trying to ear tag what the funds ought to go to. So anyway, next slide. And then after we get up through here, when we showed them, I went back to this previous slide because we showed them what the positive features are of green money, positive features of red money, and then obviously the trade-off, obviously, principal at risk and management fees. They usually pay in at least 1%, if not more, for some broker to manage that money into some kind of a managed account. So anyway, if we come down in here, and then the client's always going to ask, and they come back to, okay, well, if I have 100,000, how much of it should be, how much should I have it in guaranteed contracts or on the green money side? And super conservative, I've broken it down and got these off basically old planning guides that I've had. And if a client's super conservative, it's usually 80, just straight 80 minus their age, and you'll get a percentage of how much money they should have in green or how much money they should have in red. And it's really easy to do. So if the client's 50 years old, or on my example, 60, 80 minus 60 equals 20. And so that 20 always will show you the red number that they ought to have in risk money. And again, if you have 1,000 and they ask that question, what we really have to play with here is about an $80,000 number on the green money. Same thing on the conservative. It's always 100 minus 60. And you come up with the 40 and the 60 split. But the point being behind that is that this allows the client to tell you at that particular point in time, and they're already thinking, okay, I got 200,000. That means, okay, 120. Yeah, I have 120,000 safe, and that's the amount of money on that particular pool you have to play with. And something else I've always found out, that from this initial meeting when I do it, and I've done this with clients for agents that have millions of dollars. I've done it for guys that have 100,000. Everybody, no matter where you're at on the approach in life, where you're at, if you're 50 years old or if you're 80 years old, everybody has this threshold, and it doesn't matter if you got 50 grand or a couple $1 million. Everybody has the same threshold. We're just trying to help them find out how much money has to be ear tagged for the green money. Okay, so anyway, that's the end of that part of that presentation. Now I'm going to take it one step further, and if you want this other part of this presentation, if you're in and understand the fixed indexed annuity slide, because there's a really nice little component to this presentation that adds that component, and it really helps sell the product, because it gives you the best of both worlds. And if you want to have the extended portion of that presentation, you can easily do it. So imagine, if you would, I haven't shown the slide you're looking at right now, and we're going to go to the next slide. This slide right here lets us go ahead and bring those two circles together. And before I get there, and I say, what if we could have a little bit of both? If you could have red money and green money, and show you a different type of annuity that possibly may have a little bit more upside. But anyway, we go in here and we take these two circles, combine those two circles, and we tell them that it's the best of green money and red money combined. and it's a fixed indexed annuity. And then we go in the next slide as we take in the positive features of both of these particular type of red money and green money and added them together. And we come up basically that we have safety of the principal, we have a guaranteed interest rate, we get to participate in the market, we have tax deferral, we have liquidity features, you have lifetime income options, probate avoidance, and if you get into it and need help, Mark can get you the other information on some of these contracts, but now they have long-term care components that you can basically, for people that can't qualify for long-term care, they have basically where you can increase the benefit by 2 times on the long-term care benefit side, and they even have death benefit components. So, boy, the things that they're putting on the annuities these days, I mean, it's like a automobile that has all the bells and whistles on it, and you can have your cake and eat it too on this stuff. So, but anyway, as you combine both of those circles, I mean, that is one way to get a little bit of both the positive features of red money and green money. And then when I come back on this slide after I get through the presentation talking about both the red and green money, I come back to the same slide that was on the previous, just safe red money, green money, and it's the same breakdown, 80-20 if you're super conservative and 60-40 if you're just conservative. But again, it's going to tell me what the pool is. And then my goal from that whole presentation, I'm trying to get the clients and the prospects to come to a real conclusion of how their funds ought to be allocated. And at that particular point in time, this conversation, whenever you do this presentation, I promise you the client will lead you back and tell you how much money they have. I never have ever, well, I don't know how much I could put in there. It'll always lead you back to how much money that they can allocate, and I know how much money I've got at that point. Product choices, even at this point, are irrelevant. The only thing you've done here is you told them a concept, red money, green money, and basically you're letting that client know or that prospect know that you have a choice for them on their green money alternative. The other thing I would tell you to do is if you're selling annuities and want to be into that, I would tell you this, there's a real easy free website called bankrate.com. I don't know if anybody's been on that, but it's real easy, bankrate.com. And on bankrate.com, the good thing about that, because you'll probably have Wi-Fi access almost virtually everywhere, or if you don't, print the thing off at your office and take it with you, and it'll have what the current rates on national CD markets are from the 1 year, 2 year, 5 year. They're going to have rates on the Treasury on there. They have mortgage rates. They have every kind of rate you could think of. The only thing they don't have is what we have, which is fixed annuities. And so you're going to have to, be up to speed, on what kind of rates there are. But you can get that from Messer, and anywhere from 3 to 4.5% is about what the going rates are. So anyway, that's my goal at this particular point. And at that point, most of the time, whenever I've been, finished up with that presentation, I've always been led into how much money they have, and I'm ready to dive in there and find out what kind of rate are they expecting on the guaranteed money. That always tells me a lot. If they're expecting 8, what do we know? I can't help them. If they want 8%, then I got to go back to the allocation model and say, well, you're really not conservative, Mrs. Client. You're really telling me if you want 8%, you're really, maybe it's 40-60. It doesn't matter. Let them tell you what they're looking for on the green and red money, and then let them tell you what kind of rate they are. People that own CDs, people that own treasuries, and people that own annuities in this particular environment, believe me, they know where the rates are at, and they know what kind of rate they got the previous year. And so anyway, you're going to need to know that so you can show them that, well, Mrs. Client, right here, if you're expecting 8%, I mean, I don't know how we're going to get there if right here our national CD average is about 1.5%. Treasuries are 180, 8% is not a realistic number. Now, when the client comes back and says, if I can get 3%, over what the banks are paying right there, I know that I'm in the game on that particular client, and I'm also then ready to find out who the money's going to go to if something happens to her, and then also if they need liquidity, if long-term care, and all this stuff leads into just multiple sales, because as you develop this fact finder and this risk tolerance, it opens the door for everything and gets the client talking. So, okay. I want everybody else to also to remember the three big things that are with the clients and seniors today that we're all selling to. These are the main concerns that they're worried about. And it's not about the return on their money. It's the number is health and staying home. All the people that we're talking to and I'm hearing is they're more worried about do they get to stay home and is somebody going to come in and take care of them if they get sick. They don't want to be a burden to their kids and their health. Second concern is income. There's a lot of buzz going out there with all the income riders and so forth like that, but income is a major concern. Comes into Social Security planning and those kinds of things, but they are concerned about income. And number three is passing on assets as intended. And then, believe it or not, rate on the return right now was like number 5. So anyway, those are the three big things that they're worried about. And everything that was from that presentation on red and green money will lead you right into all the guarantees and all the next sales on the annuities that could come from that as you ear tag that money. And I've had really good luck with that presentation. Let me go back. That is the entire presentation. If you want copies of it, again, Messer has those presentations. You can download them. I highly tell you, if you're comfortable only with the first one, then put it on your laptop. And if you're comfortable with talking about the index side, index component there, put that presentation or put both of them on there. I think you'll be very surprised how clients have never seen that presentation and really don't know for sure how to allocate. Right now they kind of shoot from the hip whenever the next guy comes in there with the brochure. So, and don't be that guy. Be a guy that solves the problems, and you'll make more money, get more referrals, and write more business. So anyway, that's the presentation. If you have any questions, I'm just looking on here. If there are, Mark, are there any questions that I don't see? Or
Rich, first of all, thank you very much for presenting to us, and I think agents, you'll agree, as it started out, that the purpose of this presentation today was to keep it simple. And too many times as agents out there are confused, nervous, or concerned that they probably don't know enough to be talking to people about their assets. And I think, again, what Rich has done is made it so simple for you. And again, as he said, it's a presentation that will be available. Also, just for your knowledge, this webinar this morning is being taped. It will appear up on our website just in the next 48 hours at the most. So you can go ahead and go back through it if there was anything that did seem a little confusing. And with the simplicity, again, keep in mind what Rich said. I just want the money that the bank has. I just want the money that they don't want to lose. So don't be so concerned about where their monies are, if they have a stockbroker, if they have a financial planner. Don't get worried about that. Just show them the basics, because then it all comes right back to the very last part where Rich said the three things that they're concerned with. Hopefully you are already helping them with their health insurance. That's why they're your client. That's why you're meeting them. But again, that they're concerned about the income. And you'll be able to know, or probably already do know, the type of Social Security income they have if you've been working with them on their health, or if they have better benefits, if they happen to have a pension fund, or if they did some other planning and they actually do have other annuities. So again, just keeping it simple. Rich, I thank you very much for bringing that out to us. The numbers that were brought out here. I've never seen the super conservative. I've always seen the conservative side, the simplicity of using age 100, recognizing that many people today are living to 100, and simply subtracting their current age to determine the amount of money that should be allocated in a conservative effort, but now reducing that even more because there are more and more people, especially in that retirement age group, that have definitely become super conservative, having watched what's taken place. I think it was well pointed out, too, by Rich, that those that are looking for these unrealistic numbers, it just comes down to one word, and that's greed. And the greed itself comes out when people start taking chances in the marketplace, because that's just what they're doing. They're going in for higher risk with a larger greed factor in anticipation of getting some kind of a return, so they can go out and brag to their fellow members at the club or people at their church that they did so well on this one investment. How many times did we hear that when the market was on its escalating run before everything fell down? Then again, too, that the conclusion with the client, the simplicity. Don't, again, get yourself all confused with what's going on around it. All you want to do is get them to a point where they agree that they need to allocate funds into some safe vehicles. And now you have the answer. So again, Rich, thank you very much for making it so simple and easy just to go forward. The questions that we have, and these are good questions from Paul. He would like to know if there's any underwriting in an annuity, Rich.
There's not underwriting these days, but there is suitability. And suitability, the good old days back in the 90s, that's a good question. And back in the 90s, we grabbed, you could get a check for $200,000 in one-page app, and the annuity was issued and paid, and nothing else was ever brought up. In today's environment, suitability, you're going to have to, for example, if a client has $100,000 and that's all they have, and their house is worth, let's say, $200,000, and they don't have any other money other than $100,000, you're probably not going to get that $100,000. An annuity company take all 100. They're probably only going to take 50 or 60 of it, because suitability on their side of it says that they got to have at least about 25% of their assets completely liquid, and everything else is investable. So not underwritten, but you got to make sure that you look at their entire picture, that you're not taking every dime that they have and put it in an annuity right now.
And also what Paul brought up is running right in line with what you were talking about, Rich, with the suitability, is the effect on the new fiduciary rules and responsibilities.
Yes. And if that does not get injunction or stayed, there is going to be a lot more rules. There will be a fiduciary that will look over basically all that business. And what it's going to really do is take suitability to an entirely new level, where basically you're going to have another layer of protection, I guess, that's going to look over the clients. And ultimately, it kind of like would be underwriting, because you're going to have three people looking at it and make sure it's a suitable investment for the client that we put it under, if fiduciary goes through.
But again, for all of us out there that are insurance agents and you've had a application for life insurance get declined because your client was overweight, diabetic, smoked cigarettes, and had a cancer history in the family, that's not going to happen with an annuity. If the suitability of the money's turned in fit the needs of the client, the policy is going to be issued. So it will not be declined.
Correct.
All right. I don't see anything else coming up on the screen at this time for us, Rich. Again, thank you very much for being with us. And ladies and gentlemen, Messer will be having our expo in September on the 12th and the 13th. Be here in Charlotte. I hope those that are on the line today are able to attend. I know Rich and his company are going to be well represented. And just for your information, when you're working with annuities through Messer, the majority of the carriers that you're going to find that have what I would consider the better conservative offerings today are being brought to us by Rich and his company at GreatPlains. So again, for that, Rich, I thank you very much.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity to get in there, and of course, anything we can ever do, we're always able and willing to do it. So we appreciate being able to be on the webinar today. Hopefully, everybody got some valuable information, and I'd highly tell you to keep those presentations on your laptop and at the right time. Boy, I tell you what, they'll help you close more sales.
It's great. All right, again, everyone, for joining us today, thank you. Look forward to joining you again next Wednesday. again for another presentation on the life insurance carrier benefits. Mark Conter signing off with Rich Hellerick from Great Plains. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great week.